realize there was going to be this many people. I'm a little nervous. Y'all probably aren't, but just work with me. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Cullen Caruth. I'm 28 years old, and God's really done a lot of work in my life. See, 4 years ago, I was a complete mess. I was just always angry. I was miserable all the time. You know, you look at a person and you can't really tell it from the outside, but I had a lot of troubles going on in my heart. I was never content with anything. I was never, everybody knew that I was drinking, but I was drinking a lot. I'd stop after work and get an 18-pack. It'd be gone when I went to bed. I wouldn't even eat supper a lot of times because it was the only time that I would just really be content on the inside. It would just knock the edge off and I'd be, happy. And then 4 years ago today, I was at work, and it was probably near this hour or close to it. And I was riding in the back of a truck. I used to work on cars for a living, and I was riding in the back of an F-350 listening for a wheel noise that I'd just done a brake job on. And I had my head hung off the side of the truck, and another technician was driving me around the shop. And as he was about to go through the gate, the shop foreman yelled at me, and I looked up, and the pole caught me in the head and cut me a flip out of the back of the truck. So, I go to the hospital, I'm getting my head stapled up, and I remember, this stands out in my mind, I'm standing there thinking, I kind of wish I was just at home drinking right now, because I wasn't upset that I had a split open head or anything. I was just uncontent, and I wanted my buzz. I just wanted to knock the edge off. And so, business as usual, I'll go home, go to bed. I wake up the next morning, I can't hardly stand up. I'm wiped completely out. I'm concussed. I got a lot of things going on with me. So I call into work, and it winds up being months before I end up going back to work. I had what the neurologists call a TBI, traumatic brain injury, a mild case because I didn't lose consciousness at any point. And with that brought a lot of issues on top of my issues. It brought on a lot of anxiety, like severe anxiety, to the point where I was having panic attacks and just depression and anger. Like my wife, I don't see how she stayed with me through it. I mean, I was just a miserable person. And so after a few weeks, probably, I was able to drink again. The first few weeks of my injury, I wasn't able to drink, and so it was a lot to take in. I was dealing with life's problems sober at this point, on top of all these other problems, because, you take a brain injury, your brain operates a lot of parts of your body. It's just, your mental, your emotions, everything is wired through your brain, obviously. And so I didn't sleep probably for 2 weeks. I was up, I might have slept 3 hours in a total of 2 weeks. I had insomnia, and it was a really hard time. And so I kept on playing with the beer, trying to get it, as soon as I could catch my buzz again, I'd be good to go, and everything would be just fine. 2 or 3 weeks after my injury, I was able to drink again, so I started drinking again, and, everything was working out fine. After a few months, I was healthy enough to go back to work, and probably a month after I went back to work, got another concussion. I was pulling the dash out of a car, and I don't know what made me jump up, but I jumped up pretty hard and caught the back of my head on the steering wheel when I came out, and it concussed me again. And I think it was at this point that I was no longer able to catch a buzz. If I drank beers, they made me feel like crap, and I wouldn't get a buzz or anything, so I had no help. And so probably 3-4 weeks after this time, I'm walking through the shop in this 4-post car lift, if you can picture that you drive up on, and the whole thing lifts up. It's been in the shop the whole time. I know it's there, but for some reason, like, it's up in the air without a car on it, just about yay head level. And I go walking through the shop at a pretty high pace. I mean, it just cleans me out onto my back, and I'm like, this is no good. I've hit my head 3 or 4 times now, and now I'm getting a little PTSD because I'm scared that I'm just going to walk out of the house and get my head knocked off. And I go to church for the first time in probably since my early teenage years. And I'm sitting in the back of the pew, and the preacher's talking, and he was preaching only to me that day. This was the first time that God had actually burned my heart and interacted in my life to the point that I knew that he was being intimate with me. The preacher was talking about Christians who refuse to live in the will of God and refuse to submit to him. And I don't remember the whole sermon. This was 4 years ago, and I've had my head beat all over Hart County, but I do remember this. He was talking about this old farmer, and he said, how do you correct a stubborn mule that, won't be obedient? He said, you hit it in the head with a post. And I was like, all right. And then he's like, what do you do if he's still not obedient? He's like, you hit it again? I was like, okay. God was lighting me up at this point. So I was deciding I'm going to be here every Sunday from now on. And I'm not going to try to drink anymore. And I don't know really what else to do, but that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to church every Sunday. I'm not really drinking, and I'm trying to do good things, I guess. I don't know. And God's starting to take a little of my troubles off of me, but not many. And, through the course of a few months, I was always struggling with falling off and getting back on, falling off and I couldn't find my way. And so one Saturday, I had this old 16-foot bass tracker. Me and my wife went out on the lake, and I decided, it's a nice day, the sun's nice and bright, I'm going to have 6 beers. So I go get me a 6-pack, and we go hit the lake, and I drink them, and then the next morning, the trailer lights on my boat didn't work, so I was going to fix those instead of go to church. And I was working on it and everything. Dad had done got out of church, and he was helping me. And I stood up into the trolling motor hanging off of my boat. I ain't kidding. This is real stuff. I stood up into the trolling motor on my boat, and it gave me a concussion. I was out of work for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And the first 3 days, I was laying in the bed. I couldn't do anything. I'd get up, and I'd be flush, fatigued, and it was no good. And at this point, I'm just at probably the lowest point of my life. I am miserable, kind of getting to the point where, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I didn't really want to be here anymore. Things were getting pretty bad. I couldn't stop getting hurt. God wouldn't get off my back. I thought he was just trying to terrorize me because I didn't know how to act. I wasn't that kind of person. I wasn't some holy rolling, go to church on Sunday, live the perfect life. I never cared to be that guy. I just kind of wanted to be left alone, go to work, and drink my beer when I get home. I didn't know what else, was out there. And, growing up, I'd always heard go to church, but I never really knew Jesus, I don't think. And as I was laying in the bed for those 3 days, I decided I was going to download the Bible app on my phone. And I open up the app, and it just, for some reason, opens up into the book of John. And I start reading through the book of John, and I start reading about a lot of stuff that I'd never heard about. I was reading about these miracles Jesus was doing, the compassion he was having on people, healing them. And that gave me a little hope that, maybe we could do some healing over here. And he was taking a lot of troubles away from people, and it intrigued me. It gave me a little hope, but not much, because, to be completely honest, I didn't have the faith that he loved me enough to take the time out of his day to come help me, because I was, I hadn't gave him a lot of reasons to. And then probably from that point for another year, I'm still probably a little closer to God, but still I don't know who he is. I don't know what he wants from me, and I don't know how to get that feeling from him to help me along my way. I'm filled with anxiety and depression and just uncontentness, misery. Like, you're always, we go through life. It's our human nature. We're chasing happiness. We're chasing that promotion. We're chasing, the new car, the better house, whatever it is we're chasing. We're chasing that next happiness. But I'd already chased a lot of this happiness and then got it and realized that after a couple weeks, it's not as good as it seemed, and you're right back into the same spot. And so I'm continually trying to read through the Bible and try to learn some things, but it wasn't clicking with me. I didn't, I understood, Jesus died on the cross for us to save us from our sins. But how does that help me now? I need some help now. And then one day I was reading through the book of Mark, specifically Mark chapter 5, chapter 6 and 9, I believe, if y'all want to go back and, cite me. So I'm reading through the book of Mark, and Jesus is talking to a big crowd of people, probably thousands, I don't know. And this woman has been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She's cursed with something or another. She's got a problem. She's in trouble and she needs help. She's in the same position that I'm in. And so she had this faith that she thought to herself, if only I touched the back of his cloak, which is like a shirt, a garment, a robe, whatever they wore back then, she would be healed. And so she goes and she touches this cloak of Jesus's, and she's healed. She knows it within her that she's healed. And Jesus stops and says, "Who just touched me?" And all his disciples were like, "Dude, everybody did." But she knew that he realized his power had left him. And it was at that point that I realized a few different things. It is only by faith that I can be saved, and it is only by faith that I'll have access to this spirit that is living in Jesus. And that kind of really clicked in there for me. But I wasn't out of the creek yet because I don't have much faith at all. I actually have very little. And this little faith that I did have, I would show Jesus this, but all the doubts and insecurities and fears of giving him my life, I was always kind of like tucking him down, putting a mask on, talking to God like, I'm yours, help me, why aren't you helping me? But like, I'm not showing him who I really am at this point. And then I continue reading through Mark within the next few days, and then I get to Mark chapter 6, and I'm reading about a man who comes to Jesus. He was just desperate. I'm desperate, he's desperate. We got something in common. And he comes to Jesus. His son is possessed by a demon who's throwing him in the fire and trying to drown him. Maybe, I don't know. You have to go back and read that part. But what stood out to me here, he came to Jesus and said, "If you can heal my son, please heal him." And Jesus said, "If I can heal him, anything is possible for somebody that believes." And the man said, "I do believe, but help me overcome my belief." And then Jesus healed the boy. At that point, a couple different things happened. I realized that I can come to Jesus with a personable attitude. I can come to him who I really am. I can come to him and talk to him about the things that I have going on, my trust issues, my fear of giving my life to him and submitting to him, the things that I don't want to walk away from to follow him. I can talk to him about anything, and he's going to help me. I might not be full of faith right now, but he's here to help me overcome that. And with him healing that boy, he met the man's personal needs, and he increased his faith through interacting with his life. And I was like, I need some of that. And so I got really nervous at the time. I was sitting in my backyard, and I knew that it was time to get level with God and really have a talk with him that I wasn't used to having, just with honesty and, being personable with him. So at this point, I've made my way from my little cement table behind the back door probably to my backyard up under some trees. If my neighbors were watching me, they'd have been like, "This guy is not okay." And I was probably shaking. I was just talking to God, and I let him know, you know, I don't have a lot of faith. You know, I don't have a lot of trust, but I do have a little bit. You know, I do believe in you. I do believe that you loved us enough to die on that cross for my sins. And if you loved me enough to do that, then you probably love me enough to help me, you know, through my life. But, you know, I've not experienced it before, and so I don't have a relationship with you. I don't have anything other than what I've read in the Bible. I've never had you intervene personally